Good evening and welcome to All Things Sky Blue. As you can see down on our ticker is all the relevant information that you might need. One way you can find us on X or Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. If you like what we do, please go and like and subscribe. We're also on podcasts, so Amazon, Spotify, iTunes, or wherever else you get your podcasts from. That's if you don't want to see us. You can listen to us as well. We're sponsored by Right Steel Fabrications. His logo is in the corner somewhere. He can do all your steel fabrication work up and down the country, but mainly in the West Midlands and Coventry area. And we're also we're also partnered with the Anecdote Sports Bar at the CBS Arena. So my normal co-host is with me. Mark, how are you, Mark?
Evening, Stuart. Yeah, evening, everyone.
Hope you're well. So, obviously, we're going to be getting George in a moment to go through our match preview against Stoke on Saturday at the Bet365 Stadium. But first of all, before I get George in, we drew 2-2 last night. How did you find that game, Mark? Did you watch it? Did you go?
Didn't go, no, because Plymouth's about 5 hours away from where I live, and Valentine's Day is probably not the best of nights to be going out. So yeah, not the greatest time to go, but I did watch the game. Very pulsating game of football, I would say. It could have gone our way. Relieved to get the point. I thought we played quite well at times. We just didn't take our chances. Made mistakes for both goals, but it was really, really good to get a point right, literally last play of the match. So I think I'd have taken the point at the start of the match, and I'm quite happy with the result. Sets us up nicely for Saturday.
It does indeed. And bringing us to Saturday, let's bring in George from Potalytics. Good evening, George.
Good evening, guys. How you doing?
Hi, George.
Not too bad, thank you. We're okay. We're relieved to get a point from Plymouth last night. Obviously, we will talk about your game a little bit about QPR, but you got a much needed victory that came your way, didn't it?
Yeah, much less pulsating than you describe your game, I imagine. But I think when you get a manager like Schumacher, who's kind of renowned for being aggressive and free flowing and fluid, if he's coming out afterwards and saying, "I don't care how we played, we just needed to win," then that kind of gives the clarity of the situation that we're in at the minute. So
yeah,
just great for people to have something to cheer about and to go to the ground and not have to watch an away end erupt for the first time in a while.
That's right. So obviously, just before we do dive into the depths of everything, can you just let us know what you do again and where we can find you?
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you for having me on. So I'm at Potalytics on Twitter and potalytics.blog. I've also just put a Patreon page out, so patreon.com/Potalytics. I'm kind of doing any and all stats and analysis stuff that I find interesting from Stoke, mostly for the men's side. So in my day job, I'm an astronomer and scientist. So I've come at it from a data side and just, throw in my minuscule football knowledge in comparison behind a bit of that and seeing what I can get out of it.
Fantastic. Excellent. Where did you say we can find you?
So Twitter is at Potalytics, which I think is there somewhere. And then potalytics.blog as well for the longer pieces.
Okay, cool. Fantastic. So let's dive straight into then our last game. To be fair, I normally try and watch the previews back, but I haven't actually watched the game preview of this one. I know it was a 0-0 at the CBS Arena. If I remember rightly, I don't think there was much to write home about it really, and I think it was just one of them games. It started our apart from at the time anyway, we had Ipswich and we lost to Ipswich at their place. It kind of started our run of not conceding goals, didn't it, Mark? It came at a time where it was the first clean sheet that we had, and then we had Ipswich, lost 2-1, and then we carried on that run of not conceding in about 4 or 5, didn't we? It started off okay, didn't it?
Well, the positive was that we kept a clean sheet because we hadn't kept a clean sheet for a while. I think it was one of the first games where he changed tactics that game, the 4-3-3, I think, from memory. The game was devoid of real chances from either side, really. We didn't really look like scoring, nor did Stoke. It was a pretty drab match. I think we had a couple of chances which we fluffed, really. But in all honesty, I think a point was probably about the right result. Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a forgettable match. Really, there wasn't really a lot to talk about. Really, I mean, you can't say, oh, there was one really good moment in the match, and I think that was a time when we just wasn't. We just, obviously a lot of players had signed for us, trying to bed in, getting to know each other, and getting to know the system that Mark Robins wanted to play. And yeah, pretty boring match with a 0-0 draw. Just drab, damn squib.
Yeah, that's right. And obviously, you had a different manager in charge then, George. How, from your side of things, how did that match go for you? Were you happy with the point?
I think it was almost kind of the opposite to your side there, in the sense that was at the end of a good run of results, but one that was kind of much needed for Alex Neil at the time, but probably there weren't really the performances there. I think it was 5 or 6 unbeaten, something like that, and it was a scrappy 5 or 6 unbeaten where we were battling out to get some good results. And I think, if I remember rightly, after that was the run of 4 losses or so in a row that culminated in him losing his job. So it was probably pretty much what we'd been experiencing for most of the season after the first few games, really, that we weren't really creating a lot. We seemed to kind of be focusing on our own weaknesses rather than necessarily trying to, better other teams. We were just trying to cancel ourselves out, really. And that's probably where Alex Neil's downfall came, I think.
Yeah. Obviously, your form, if you like, if I can just read your form out since we last played you, your home form, you've only won 1, you've lost 4, and you've drew 3. Your away form, you've only won 2, you've lost 4 also, and you've drew 2. So home form has been, since we last played you, has been a massive issue, hasn't it? And I think the past 5 games is you've lost 4 on the bounce again, and you've won 1, and the one was luckily yesterday against QPR. How was that match? How has Schumacher changed things around since? Because you had Paul Gallagher caretaker for a couple of games as well, I believe. How has things changed?
It's a strange one, really, because the first, I'd say, 7 or 8 games before that, in fact, including the first loss of that run of 4 losses in a row, everything was pretty positive. It felt like the shackles were off with the players. It kind of felt like all those players who'd had weaknesses as their focus for so long were suddenly being told, actually, go out there, take a couple of risks, try and play a bit of football, and you'll be pretty good. And then, as has so often happened with Stoke the past few years, it just sort of started to fall apart. We had a pretty poor performance away at Sunderland. We kind of just gifted goals and missed chances ourselves. Leicester then at home didn't help because, as you know, they can tear anyone apart, and boy did they do that in the second half particularly. So yeah, it's been quite a sort of, not a season for him, but a spell of 2 halves so far. And last night, a much needed win, and I think the relief was pretty clear from everyone in the stands and on the side of the pitch as well, that we weren't going into that trying to win pretty or trying to play nice football. We were going into that knowing that we needed 3 points. I think you mentioned the home form. That the goal last night that won us the game was our 6th home goal since, I think, October, the start of October. So that there you get creeping in fan resentment, you get a bit of anger in the ground, you get the scenes we saw away at Blackburn where players are being told, in no uncertain terms, that they're not playing well enough. Yeah. So it's just about, at the minute, probably grinding out those results and building a bit more confidence again.
Yeah. Now, I know, obviously, you've got 2 ex Coventry players as the central pairing in terms of McNally and Rose. I know McNally has been in and out a little bit. Stoke fans that I've heard have kind of said that Rose is the better one out of the two. How are you feeling about them now? Because I think they've played the past couple together now, haven't they?
Yeah. They've played a few. It's kind of been mix and match with Ben Wilmot as well, out of those three, because there's been some injuries and some, I think Rose was out last week for a small injury sort of thing. So it goes in sort of spits and spats with them. There's a couple of weeks where you think, oh, there's some real quality to McNally, and Rose can be a little bit worrying and maybe have those mistakes in him. And then another couple of weeks, further down the line where McNally's passing the ball through to people, putting the opposition through, and you think actually probably Rose has had a couple of solid games. So again, with that confidence, it's consistency as well among those. And I don't think either of those two centre-backs at the minute are feeling particularly confident in clearing the ball, in getting the body on the line. Less so yesterday, I would say. I thought they both played all right. McNally did pretty well after a sort of shaky
I believe he
got
the assist in there. I think it's been awarded to him, I think.
Yes, yeah. So he won the header, I think, from the corner that then Wouterberger got on the end of. So yeah, it's a case of worry that if something goes wrong, they've both got a bit of a scared spell to them, and at the minute at Stoke, that's kind of the story of the last few games, is that as soon as something does go wrong, there's a bit of a collapse in each of the players, really.
Yeah, and it's not to kind of rub salt in the wound a little bit, but last season, the two games were won by the away side.
Yeah.
And obviously with your home form as well. I'm not sure how are you guys feeling going into Saturday?
I don't think there's a Stoke fan in the world who will tell you that they're confident with any game, really. Not even last night.
Okay.
I think that there's a worry there that we're playing a side who can run at you, who can break you open, and who are doing all right. And it seems to us like if we don't get the first goal, it's game over for a lot of these matches. Which again, very strange, because 5 games ago, we were talking about how much better it was and how exciting the football was and how happy everyone was. So it's another one of those Stoke collapses, I think, that we've seen so often.
Yeah, Mark, obviously, we've had a few games now against Bristol City and Millwall, and the performances really haven't quite been there for us. Last night was a little bit better. I thought it was two good teams going at it. How do you feel going into Saturday's game against Stoke?
Yeah, I think we go to the game. We should go to the game with confidence, really, because we haven't really. I think we've only lost one game this year at Norwich away, and I thought yesterday we played quite well. Although we did miss chances. That was the problem yesterday, and we switched off a couple of times for the goals, so that was disappointing. But I think Stoke, in some ways, I'm quite happy they won last night. I think if you played a Stoke team that maybe had lost against QPR, they really needed the win. I think it might be a harder game. I think the fact that pressure's slightly off them, maybe it give them a false sense of security that maybe it's not as a crucial game as they might think psychologically. I'm just playing kind of devil's advocate a bit.
Yeah.
We should, if we played to the way we can, I think Callum O'Hare will come back. He was obviously rested to fatigue, and obviously that's kind of been a bit well documented with Robin's comments. And I think O'Hare was a bit. I think he wants to play, but I think Robin's just felt it was necessary to rest him, so he'll come back. I think the interesting thing is who plays wide left. I think De Silva had a decent game last night, and I would probably keep him going. I wouldn't make too many changes. I think Sakamoto has to start. Obviously, he was on the bench yesterday, so I'd like to see him come back with O'Hare. But I kind of like the team. You had natural width from the left with De Silva and Bidwell, who worked quite well in tandem. I think Sakamoto's got to come back in really, possibly time to give Casey Palmer a rest, I would say. Ellis Simms got a goal, which is good, and hopefully, I think I'd probably keep him going for another game. I'd probably play one up front, and I'd probably put Godden on the bench. I think Godden's really been out of form. He's a confidence player, and really missed a gilt-edged chance last night. It was really disappointing. I hate to say this, but I put my mortgage in putting that one away, and he had it wide, so I was just gobsmacked by that miss. But these things can happen, but look, it's not going to be an easy game. I know Stoke aren't playing great at home, but they've still got a lot of points to fight for. And I think when as the season goes on, with 15 games to go, there's no easy games. You're either playing against teams fighting for the playoffs, like ourselves. You're playing teams like Stoke who just want to make sure they stay up. You've got teams at the top. So every game is difficult. And I don't think we should underestimate Stoke, despite what George might say, because if we don't turn up, we can get undone. So let's hope we turn up.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, going into sort of talking about your players, you signed in January Niall Ennis and Luke Kundal, who was at Plymouth at the first half of the season. I think he did okay there. Speaking to a Plymouth podcast earlier on before our game, I think he was a little bit in and out of your team. How have you found the new signings? Because obviously Dwight Gale's you've let Dwight Gale go, who's a half decent striker on his day. To be fair, how have you found the new guys, and are you missing Dwight?
I think with Dwight Gale, it had kind of become pretty clear that his best days were fairly behind him.
Okay.
He'd had a little bit of a spell of not form in front of goal, but being part of a good team in that run last year where we played yourselves away from home. But there was a lot of that speed had gone. A lot of that kind of clever movement wasn't quite there anymore, and a lot of the finishes were starting to become air kicks as well. So I think it just became clear that he wasn't quite quick enough to be the finisher he used to be the kind of fox in the box he used to be, and he didn't quite have the technical quality to do the other stuff as well as some other players have done. I think the big one this window for us has been, so we loaned in Daniel Iverson from Leicester. Yeah. Having lost Travers from the first half of the season back to Bournemouth from his loan. And I think that was the big kind of worrying area for fans, was that Jack Bonham has kind of deputised okay at times, but he's not really a championship keeper on the regular. So that was a pretty big move for us, to be honest. Cundall and Ennis have kind of split opinion a bit. It's a bit worrying to see a manager just come in and stick with the players he knows. It's not worked well for us before with previous managers, but I think Ennis has come in and looked pretty lively. He's kind of had a bad spell at Blackburn first half of the season, and he looks like he can run in behind. He looks like he's got a bit of kind of vigor about him when he's playing. So endeared himself rather quite well last night to the Stoke fans. Cundall is a bit of an enigma in that I think he probably works really well in a team that's playing some quality football. I'm not sure he's kind of enough of a one-man army to be able to drag himself into this team, but he definitely puts a shift in, and he's, again, pretty key last night in making sure that we didn't concede and we kept ahead of the game when we did get the goal.
Yeah.
So yeah, some big changes, but there's a lot of changes that fans would have wanted us to make, a lot of other signings that people wanted in. But yeah, we kind of got what we could do, I think, and we've left it at that and hoping that it's enough.
Yeah, I think you're missing your top goal scorer as well, aren't you? On 6 goals, is it Andre Vidigal?
Yeah, and I think even whilst playing, he's kind of, a lot of those goals came relatively early in the season. Okay. He had a really decent spell at the start where he looked like a cracking player with, getting in the right place in the box, getting on the end of things and finishing, but he sort of drifted off a little bit, as you'd expect for someone new to the league, relatively young. So it's there's not quite as much weight on him at the minute in terms of that. We're sort of trying to find other ways to get those goals back in the team.
Okay, cool. Any questions, Mark?
Has there been much change then since Schumacher's arrived at Stoke in terms of the style of football with Alex Neil versus in terms of formations, tactics or anything like that?
Yeah, it's pretty much always been a 4-3-3 for both managers, but a very, very different way of playing it. Schumacher, when he came in, was all about your passes go forward, you play through the middle of the pitch, and your fullbacks invert inside, and you're kind of very fluid in the way you're playing. And Alex Neil was very much a case of lots of players wide, get the ball out there, and get the ball in the box. So very different ways of playing. But again, last night we saw that Stoke were much more keen to just get behind the ball, go direct. Once we got the goal, it was about keeping in the game. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a slightly different Schumacher to what we'd expect on Saturday's game again.
Okay, cool. Anything else, Mark?
Do you think any changes to the start 11 for Saturday's game from a Stoke perspective?
It'll be interesting to see. I think yesterday's 11 was not really expected by anyone. It was a switch back to a back three. I could see possibly Ben Wilmot coming back in for Michael Rose. I think he sort of struggled the most of the centre halves who did start. But other than that, it's tough to say because this is a completely, not a scared Schumacher necessarily, but a Schumacher who knows that the result is the important bit rather than the way that he wants to play football. So I would be surprised if there are too many changes to a win inside, but possibly one or two of the centre backs.
Sure.
Okay, cool. So from the start of this, I'm probably going to ask the wrong question here, but from the start of the season, has your expectations changed? Is it literally? Do you think you can get out of this rut and slowly move up the table a little bit? Or is it literally just about making sure that you stay in that league?
I think it's strange because my expectations are still pretty much what they were at the start of the season, which was that I expected us to improve, start to play a little bit better football, maybe flirt kind of, towards the top half. I mean, we've had 5 seasons now of 16th, 15th and 14th being the only finishes we have. So a season of improvement was what I was looking for. I think at this point, no matter where we finish, I'm going to be disappointed that we didn't get that. So in some way, my expectations haven't really changed.
Yeah.
But it is now, a case of get away from the bottom 3 as quickly as you can and then see what you can do about playing nice football. I would be very, very disappointed with the club as a whole if we were close to relegation or relegated this season. I think there'd be a pretty big reckoning due if that were to happen, given the money we've spent, the wages we spend, and the kind of, we say we've got very stable ownership, we've got a lot of money to put in, even despite profit and sustainability rules. So that would be, I think that would be pretty sort of catastrophic for the club, really, if that were to happen. So it's all about getting away as quick as possible, and then we can reflect on the season once it's over and we've got through it safely, hopefully.
I don't know. To be fair, sorry to interrupt. I don't know about you, but the way that I look at sort of at the start of every season and going throughout the season as well is, are there 3 worse teams than you? And even when I look at Stoke, I still feel that there's 3 worse teams than you. And it's not even the 3 that are there at the moment. I still think that there's other teams that are just not as good as you guys are on your day. Look, everybody can have a bad day. Everybody can have sort of bad half a season. At the moment, for me, it's Stokes. I don't get what. Do you think you're in a false position, just like Coventry were at the start of the season? Do you think it's a slight false position?
There's definitely an argument for it, and I think it's strange because when I mentioned that unbeaten run under Alex Neil, where we weren't playing well but we were getting results, the kind of 5 or 6 games before that we were playing pretty well and just getting done in, kind of on the counter and stupid mistakes and things like that. So there's an argument to say it's a false position on kind of the underlying numbers, but again, it's the thing that scares people about Stoke is the fact that when we're in these bad runs, there's quite a lot of it that seems to be a mentality thing of, like I say, crumbling when you concede a goal, of kind of players being fearful and scared of making mistakes and things like that. Yeah. There's only so many kind of times you can watch an opposition player pick up the ball in the 6-yard box, turn around and pass it into an empty net with no one tackling them before you think, well, what the hell's going on here, sort of thing. So in my head, I still don't think I believe we'll go down or anything like that. I'm pretty confident it still end up being a 16th place for the 12th season in a row or whatever it is. But it's just that mentality that scares you. You see players kind of looking around for someone to blame when we concede, and all 11 of them are out of position, and we've passed the ball clean through to someone for no reason. So it's that difficulty of not thinking we will go down, but we know that there's always a mistake in us.
Yeah, Mark, the form that we're in a little bit now, I suppose, is when Alex O'Neill, we went at the start of the season for Stoke. We're grinding out results, aren't we? And we're not playing particularly well, but we're still getting the win. We're still getting the point. The performances slowly have started getting better. Do you think the performance on Saturday is going to be better? Do you think we need, obviously, I know we need to play better, but do you think it will be better?
Yeah, I think it can be better. Yeah, definitely. Why not? Because we've got Callum O'Hare coming back. You hope that you should be freshened up now. He's had a week off, really, nearly a week off. So it'd be good to get him fit and firing for this game. I think Sakamoto had a bit part appearance last night, so I think to say he'll come on. So we've got players, and I think Robbins what he's having to do is manage the squad very, very closely. You can't play the same old players every week in, week out. We've got a lot of games, as you know, Stuart. We've got FA Cup obviously coming up. And obviously we want to get to the playoffs again. So we haven't got a big squad of players, and I think it's just a case of managing the squad as we can do, and at least we go into this game with a couple of fresh legs in that sense. So yeah, I think we can. There's no reason why we can't go to Stoke and get a good positive result. And I think it's the important thing is we can get that first goal and get the crowd on their backs. That's the important thing.
Yeah,
keep it nice
definitely.
and tight for 20 minutes and get that first goal. Because if you get that first goal, psychologically, the crowd are going to get on the players' backs. However, if we do concede first, then it could be a hard game. So, but I think we can play better. I think we played well last night. I think there were some good signs, but there were also signs where, we switched off and Plymouth were, scored a couple of decent goals. So hopefully that won't happen. We'll keep it nice and tight. But we need to improve the away form. It's okay, but we need to get to these playoffs. You've got to pick up points away from home. You can't just rely on your home game. So there's an opportunity to get 3 points, which will set us up nicely for Preston on the next game. But yeah, fingers crossed.
Cool. Okay. From your perspective, George, from the first game, have you noticed any other players that have come out for Coventry City that are threats to you, that you feel that are threats?
I think I was quite worried, and I put something on Twitter today about one of your players playing a sort of a pass round the outside, through ball around the outside of a centre back. I can't remember the name of the player. Apologise for that. Talk. That's exactly right. Yes, and that specifically worries me because of the last few games. That's been a pretty fertile hunting ground for oppositions. Is that kind of filling in behind a fullback and get a pass whipped around Rose or McNally. So I think anyone with that kind of ability is always going to worry me against our defence and midfield with how it's been. So I'm interested to see how he plays because I've not seen him, I don't think, before in the flesh in any of these games. So,
well, Torp was a January signing anyway that we got in, and to be fair, he started against Sheffield Wednesday in the cup, and he scored a bouter on his debut.
Yes, I remember seeing that.
Absolutely brilliant goal. And to be fair to him, he has, the worrying thing is he's got better and better, and I still don't think we've seen the best of him either, really. The only downside, Mark, really, to this game for us is obviously we are missing Sheaf still. Latty has been filling in there. I would imagine that he might get a rest, or he might rest Milan and play him over to the right-hand side of a back four. He might bring Eccles back in. We've got a lot of options, haven't we? I still think Torp starts, but he rested Wright and he rested Sakamoto, who did come on against Plymouth. So, and like you mentioned already, we've got O'Hare to come back as well. So things are looking positive for us. So in terms of threats, George, I think we have got plenty. From my point of view, anyway, I think we have got plenty. Can I get a prediction out of you?
There's head and heart predictions, I think. My head is saying something like a 2-1 loss, possibly. My heart is hoping we'll get a 3-1 win with 3 horrible set pieces. Okay. To be honest, it would be a game where if we do win it, it's huge. So I've got to hope that we can.
Yeah. Mark?
Well, it's about time we kept a clean sheet. I think there's one thing I've got to add. Because there's been too many games we conceding goals, so it'd be nice if we get a clean sheet. Can we get a clean sheet? Yes, we can do. I'm going to be positive. I'm going to say we're going to win 3-0. I think it's a good opportunity to get a good result. With the games coming up, it's important we pick up 3 points and to back up a really good point at Plymouth, I thought.
Yeah, definitely. So, sorry, what was your score prediction?
3-0 to Sky Blues.
3-0. Okay. I think it's going to be slightly closer. I think it would be quite interesting. Obviously, we started our good clean sheet run, if you like, against Stoke. So it'd be nice if we can start it again against Stoke as well. I think we might just nick this one. So I'm probably going to go for a 1-0 win from my point of view, I think. Any questions for George, Mark?
No, not really. No, I was just going to say I'm looking forward to the game. I think it's going to be it's my second visit to Stoke, so I'm looking forward to travelling. So, yeah, fingers crossed that we can get that win.
Excellent. I am going to this one. I'm going to see my partner's cousin as well. So I'm leaving them and going to watch the game in between taking the dogs for a walk as well. So, yeah, I haven't been to the to Stoke in a while, in a fair few years. So I can't quite remember it. So it'll be nice to jog my memory of it. So, yeah, looking forward to it. As always, we have changed it slightly. It's not called word association anymore. It's called Quickfire Questions. From the last time, I have had a listen and I have changed the questions, so they're not the same questions. All right,
I have those ones as well.
Excellent. Right, so the first one is Steve Schumacher.
Worried.
Okay. Now, this one is a two-parter. So the first one is, how do you feel about West Brom?
Not a big fan.
Okay. And how do you feel about Port Vale?
Probably less of a villain to me than West Brom, actually, I think, for my generation.
Okay. Fair enough. All right. No worries. Favourite home chant?
Gosh, that's difficult. I can't help but think of the Let's All Do the Wenger back in the day.
Okay.
Half the stand waving their arms and everything in front of him. Can't beat that.
That was the Ryan Shaw. Was that the Ryan Shawcross one? With
I think it might have been the year before that. I think he was angry at a ref decision, did his arm waving, and 20,000 people behind him decided to join in.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough.
Player of the season so far?
Wouter Berger by a million miles.
Wow. Okay.
So far. Yeah.
So I don't know whether to change this now because my next one was Wouter Berger.
Player of the season? No, he's just class. Just a a midfielder who I don't think will be in this division for very long.
Wow.
All in all, just one of those players who's got the sort of Rolls Royce about him.
Brilliant, fantastic. Is he actually going to be out on Saturday?
Not that I've seen. He did go off, but I think it was more of a precaution.
Oh, okay, fair enough. All right.
But wouldn't take me as gospel on that. He was kind of running around and chanting at the end of the game. So
okay, that's all right.
Hopefully he's all right.
That's okay. Okay, cool. Lovely. So thank you very much, George, for coming on. It's great to have you on. And good luck for the rest of the season, obviously, apart from Saturday. Before you do leave us, can you just let us know where we can watch you and listen to you again?
Yes, so on Twitter or X, it's at Potalytics. My longer form stuff is potalytics.blog and patreon.com/potalytics as well. Thank you so much for having me, gents.
No, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much. Obviously, the home one was really good, and this one is just as good. Obviously, I'll do my little bit of editing, and then I'll get it out probably for tomorrow morning. Cool. But I'll send you a link to it anyway, and then if you can pass it around your socials.
Yes, no problem at all.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Thank you very much again, Mark, for joining me, coming on. It's always good to have you on as well. Just remember where you can find us, guys. X, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok as well now. We are sponsored by Right Steel Fabrications, and we're partnered with the Anecdote Sports Bar at the CBS Arena. For anyone that is going to make the journey to the Bet365 Stadium, have a safe journey, and let's hope that we can bring the 3 points back. Thank you very much, guys. Much appreciated. Play up Sky Blues.